This was as good of an outcome as the Jazz could have hoped for.
Yeah.
The Utah Jazz absolutely dominated the LA Lakers. But Jake, was it only because the Lakers were shorthanded?
Well, no. I mean, the Jazz were making their shots. There's no question about that. I think that when you make 53s over a 2-game span, you're obviously, the whole team is on fire. And I think it is an impressive feat, no doubt about it. I think last night the thing that was so interesting to me, and we talk about this almost on a daily basis when we talk Jazz, is that you can't give them space to shoot their shots. You can't give them space around the three-point arc, and that's all the Lakers did last night. For whatever reason, the Lakers decided that it would be a good idea to collapse on the paint consistently instead of being strong at the perimeter and, going from there. Yesterday on the show, we specifically talked about how Montrezl Harrell was going to be on Rudy, and he was going to have to work that matchup on both ends of the floor. And I feel like that didn't really happen the way the Lakers would have wanted it to happen. You didn't get, you did get, there was some early foul trouble for the Jazz, a little bit, but not too much. And that was one area that I was really looking for with the Lakers to try and win this game. If you're the Lakers, your team is shorthanded. You've got injuries to AD and Schroder. You got to find a way to kind of level the playing field here because the Jazz are fully healthy. And they didn't do that last night. And so, again, I think the lesson we learned last night watching that game is you can't give the Jazz breathing room on the arc. I mean, most of those shots were wide open looks, just wide open. Guys got to take, 5 or 6 strides on defense just to get back into the airspace of the shooter. That's a wide open three in the NBA, and there were tons of those last night.
Well, and the one that stands out to you is the Bogdanovich corner three, where Marcus Morris is just lets him stand there and shoot it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lakers missed Dennis Schroder. Do you want to know what I take out of this game from last night about the Lakers? Mm-hmm. Dennis Schroeder's a really important part of what the LA Lakers are doing, especially defensively. They have guys who can bring the ball up. They don't have guys who can defend with tenacity the way that Dennis Schroeder does.
Yeah.
And they don't have guys who will fulfill their role the way Dennis Schroeder does. And I think the thing that really stands out to me is that the Lakers missed Dennis Schroeder last night. Now, obviously, they're going to miss Anthony Davis. He's one of the best 4 or 5 combo guys in the NBA.
Right.
But Anthony Davis alone doesn't win them that game or stop the Jazz from doing what they were doing.
Right.
But Dennis Schroeder and AD together, I think, probably do.
Yeah, I think that changes the outcome of the game. Obviously, I'm not going to confidently sit here and say the Lakers win the game either way, but I do think that, when you look at the way that Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder with LeBron can control the pace of a game, you're not going to play that frenetic pace on defense that they constantly find themselves playing. I mean, they're essentially on defense. The Lakers are just running around with their heads cut off. That's essentially what their defense is right now because they don't have their starters. The chemistry is not there. So you get a guy like Marcus Morris standing on the block on the weak side, watching a great shooter in the league in Bogdanovich shoot a wide open three. And so it's not. I don't want this to come off like I'm trying to take something from the Jazz last night because I'm not. They still had to make those shots. They played great offense. They got a ton of good looks in the paint as well. So they took care of their business. And to be honest with you, it's really nice to see them not playing down to an opponent. Like, hey, whether it's a hurt Lakers team or it's the best team in the league or whatever, we're going to play our game to the best of our ability, and I think that's a tip of the cap to Quinn Snyder. And I think that the Jazz are just in a really great place right now, and overall, I hope that when they see a healthy Clippers team again, when they see a truly healthy Lakers team, and they see the Nets, that they play this brand of basketball, because I think if they do, they have a shot to go to the finals, but they have to consistently play this well. So we'll see what happens coming out of the All-Star break, because that's really one of the only hurdles that I see for them right now.
Yeah, I don't buy for a second that the Jazz will be able to play this style of basketball in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think postseason basketball, every game is a different game in the postseason. Mm-hmm. Because teams are too good. They evolve too quickly. They learn too quickly. They make adjustments minute to minute, let alone game to game.
Yes.
So I think it's very difficult for the Jazz to believe, or they would be foolish to believe, that Bogdanovich is going to stand in the corner and shoot open threes with 3 feet of clearance.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. What happens against the Lakers? I don't know. I mean, does Anthony Davis ever get back at 100%? I would guess not. Calf strains don't heal well. They take an extraordinary amount of time to heal. And when the Achilles tendon's involved, it's just not worth the risk.
Yeah.
So the Jazz either go out and play this style of basketball and thump the Lakers, or Anthony Davis comes back healthy with Dennis Schroder, and this is a completely different game and a completely different 7-game series.
A completely different conversation.
Yeah, so I think it'll be interesting. But the lesson here is clear. Teams that play at pace, that use a smaller lineup, make life very difficult on the Jazz.
Yeah.
And even inside of this game, you look at the box from last night, and I look at the fact that you have guys like Montrezl Harrell, 16 points and 6 boards in just 22 minutes.
It's a good game.
He's a 6'7" center.
Yeah.
Who is going to give the Jazz trouble.
And he's strong as hell, too.
Yeah, and guys like Rudy Gobert, who, by the way,
bro, better be careful guarding LeBron out on the perimeter, my guy.
LeBron dropped him. And everybody's like, oh, it doesn't matter. LeBron missed the shot. Oh, it matters. It matters.
You telling me that Rudy doesn't matter to Rudy?
Yeah, well, I'm guessing it does. And the thing that I want people to remember is somebody's got to figure out how to stop all this switching in the NBA.
Yeah.
Because, like, we watched it last night. The Suns and the Hornets. Hornets win that game. And a lot of it is because the Suns couldn't stop switching off of LaMelo to put guys like DeAndre Ayton, who's already a terrible defender. But then you switch him on to LaMelo Ball, and he has no chance.
Well, and I think the thing with the league right now is that's like in the NHL, when you go on the power play, you have an advantage, right? You're 5-on-4. That's what they're doing in the NBA. They're creating the matchup that is most advantageous to them. We've been seeing that in the league for, probably the last 30 years, man. I mean, that's just how the game is played, and I think that, if you're... I think the issue is not switching everything. The issue is the help defense off the switch. So if you're going to switch DeAndre Ayton onto LaMelo, then you got to help DeAndre when LaMelo inevitably hits him with the crossover and goes by him. You can't just let LaMelo have a free run at the basket.
And what did LaMelo do?
He dunked it.
Yeah. And now LaMelo tried to give it back with a really stupid foul.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Gordon Hayward, I don't know what he was doing fouling Devin Booker late in that game. But here nor there, the Hornets wound up hanging on to win that game. And it's because LaMelo Ball had 7 fourth-quarter points, and late in the game was just terrorizing the Suns.
Yeah.
Going to the basket, driving and kicking, driving and dunking, driving and making layups. LaMelo Ball is close right now to being the best young point guard in this class. And I understand there's a lot of young talent. That kid is proving every naysayer wrong.
He is.
And if you are the T-Wolves right now, you're probably not second-guessing that pick.
You're not, no.
But, boy, the Hornets feel fortunate that they got LaMelo Ball.
I think LaMelo Ball is a flashier pick than Edwards was, but Edwards is a more complete player, in my opinion. He's stronger. He's got a better body to take the pounding that the league is going to give you as a player. And I think that he can do more for you. But I think LaMelo is an incredibly exciting player. I think he is, proving all the haters wrong. And I think that, he can be a long-term solution for Charlotte, which is what matters.
But ask yourself this question. What if you're a Golden State Warrior right now? You drafted James Wiseman.
Which is what they needed.
Which is what they needed, I guess. But is that what they're going to need in 3 years? When LaMelo Ball is the best point guard in the NBA?
Maybe. I don't know. I think it's easy to look back, but what I'm sitting here looking at if I'm the Warriors is, hey, Klay's going to come back. We'll have Steph. Don't know if we'll have Draymond still or not because there's trade talk around Draymond after what happened. But you have Wiseman, and I think Wiseman is a perfect candidate to be the next AD or Karl Anthony Towns or those kind of guys who are athletic, mobile big men.
And my point is, you can't have too many guards on the floor right now in the NBA.
Yeah.
So I think that would have been interesting. I think the Hornets got very fortunate here because they right now are close to being a playoff team. They're in every single game. They're not getting blown out very often.
No.
They go up against the elites like the Jazz. They fought the Jazz for 3 quarters, and then the Jazz torched them in the 4th.
And that is what you would expect out of a young team in Charlotte.
Exactly right.
You would expect them to put up a good fight, and then at some point, whether that's headed into the half or headed into the 4th quarter, whenever it is, you would expect a team like the Jazz to kind of take over. But yeah,
are they the best team in the NBA right now?
The Jazz?
Yeah, I don't know how you say they're not.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're the best team in the NBA right now. Absolutely. There's no question about it.
On February 25th.
Yeah, so, like, yes, they are, and Jazz fans should be excited, but at the same time, like, be cautiously optimistic. Like, I think if you're not an avid NBA fan, you don't know what it means that playoff basketball is different than regular season basketball. That it totally changes. The intensity is way higher. The games are way higher, or the games are played completely differently. So, yes, they are the best team in the league right now. They absolutely are. But like I said on the show yesterday, just because you gave an ass-kicking to a depleted Lakers roster doesn't mean that all of a sudden you should be a favorite to win the NBA Finals. You know, you gotta... You got the Clipper game the other night is the best benchmark game that I've seen them play almost all season because that was a fully healthy Clippers roster, and that's a potential playoff matchup.
Should I read some YouTube comments?
Yeah, I'm sure they're all pissed off. I mean,
no, we actually got an avalanche of your show's great, don't listen to the haters yesterday. Mm-hmm. But one stood out to me in the negativity.
Okay.
Mitchell said... On the podcast yesterday, Mitchell said, "It's as if you guys don't watch games. I listen to you every day, and I know you watch the games. I know you see the plays. How can you be so lost on Rudy Gobert? Saying that he has no place in the game in the final 5 minutes makes you look stupid. Stop saying that." Okay, and we get this a lot.
Who the f*** is that guy?
Mitchell, go to your room. No, I'm kidding. We get this a lot. The Gobert conversation.
Yeah.
Tell me how I'm wrong. Because I'm the one who says that. I own up to it. I freely admit it. I don't believe that Rudy Gobert has a place in the game in the last 5 minutes.
And what is that? Why do you say that? Maybe that's the more important side of it.
Because he cannot play at pace, and he has zero abilities offensively.
Okay.
The only reason you would have him in the game offensively in the last 5 minutes is you're hoping that he gets a second chance tip. Mm-hmm. He gets a tip dunk. He bats a ball out to keep a possession alive. Mm-hmm. Because offensively, he has no mid-range game. He has no elbow jumper. He offers you very little.
Doesn't have back to the basket game.
Cannot. Really, the only thing he can do is set a pick high. Because he isn't a guy that rolls to the basket. Because he does not. The other thing that I think that a lot of people, crush me when I say it, Rudy Gobert's not a great catcher of the basketball on the move.
He can catch lobs, but he's not great at catching.
In traffic, he does not catch the ball well.
Yeah.
And my old coach, good old sappy Ron Sapocek at Round Lake High School, 1947.
Sapocek
used to say, if you can listen and catch the basketball, I can have you on my team. Mm-hmm. He used to say that all the time. If you can't catch the basketball, you cannot play in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And I think Rudy Gobert clearly can play in the NBA. In the last 5 minutes, he's not a guy. DeAndre Ayton, everybody says, oh, he's a wonderful offensive player who's evolved. Look how tall he is in those muscles. Well, what good is he on defense? Mm-hmm. Because LaMelo Ball made a fool of him yesterday.
Right.
And Monty Williams committed some Monty on Monty crime yesterday. What did he say? DeAndre got exposed.
Yep.
We have to do better. Because you can't have the point guard switching to the center.
Yeah.
When did we see that? I don't know. Patrick Beverley in the corner in L.A. against Rudy Gobert. So you can get pissed that I say Rudy Gobert doesn't have a place. LeBron last night dropping Rudy Gobert. You can get pissed that I say that Rudy doesn't have a place in this game in the last 5 minutes. Tell me how I'm wrong about that.
Yeah.
And I'll again say, let me take him out on the offense and put him in on the defense. That shit does not work.
Yeah.
Because you don't have time, and it's just not quick enough.
Yeah.
And you know what, Barry? Exactly right. Barry, the New York Knicks fan, I appreciate you do that. Barry, the New York Knicks fan, says the center died with Patrick Ewing. He was the last guy who could play offense and defense, but only because there was a lot of post-up play. Nobody posts up anymore. Being 6'5" is more valuable than 7 feet. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of credence to that in the NBA right now.
I would agree.
Being 6'5" and a guard gets you a lot more. Look at Book.
Yeah.
Another dominant performance last night.
Yeah. I there's no question that the league is a fast-paced league now. It's not a big man's league. And I think if you are big, you absolutely have to have a jump shot. And that's why I'm so fascinated as to why they paid Rudy. Because, you're paying a guy who can't shoot the basketball. Literally can't shoot it. I mean, his free throw numbers are not good, and all he can really do is roll to the basket and set a pick on the offense. That's about it, and he cleans up. But other than that he doesn't provide you flexibility offensively. You can't. Well, last night, Marcus Gasol at the beginning of the game hit 3 threes in a row and kept the Lakers in the game early. And Rudy can't do that, Now, I'm not saying that Marcus Gasol is better than Rudy, because I think Rudy, the defense that Rudy provides you, it does give you a lot. It saves you time and possessions. But I can't get over the fact that you literally have a guy on offense who can't shoot the basketball.
Well, Duran Leslie says Rudy's screening and rolling frees up the entire offense. That's true. There's no doubt. He's not a threat on the roll in the last 5 minutes of the game. And the other thing is lethal as he can be, Rudy Gobert can be defensively, in the last 5 minutes, teams isolate him to pull him away from the basket.
Yeah.
And it's very effective. Again, I don't mean to keep going back to the Clipper loss. It's exactly textbook what the Clippers did to get a matchup of Pat Bev versus Rudy Gobert. And what did Rudy do? Rudy let Pat Bev stand in that corner so that he could guard the paint. So what did the Clippers do? Drive, kick, splash. Pat Bev hits the open three. You can't have that. It's again the Suns and DeAndre Ayton last night. DeAndre Ayton switches on to LaMelo. LaMelo, first time drives, hammer dunk. Second time drives, kicks to Miles Bridges, who splashes a three. The league is changing.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of respect for Rudy Gobert's game. All but the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
and I don't think I'm saying that the guy sucks. I'm just saying he has to understand that.
And I think in the postseason, what you're going to see is you're going to see teams try to exploit him more during the game, not just in the last 5 minutes. And I think, again, I'll just keep saying it too. At some point, there will be a team that figures out how to get the Jazz into foul trouble early in a game. Because what we've seen is when they're in foul trouble, they're a lot easier to deal with because their prime shooters are on the bench. You can do some nice things. And so when I look at a team, I don't know why for the life of me, people are not going after Rudy Gobert to get him in foul trouble.
Oh, I think they are. I think they are. I mean, absolutely Ben Simmons did. The Sixers did. Right? The Hornets did. I think teams try, but the problem is the Jazz pass the basketball so well. I mean, we saw it last night, pick and roll with Spida Mitchell, and he has Rudy open for a lob. Did he throw it to him? No. What did he do? He kicked it to the corner to Bogdanovich, who splashed a three.
Yeah.
Because Quinn Snyder will say it until he's dead. You cannot shoot enough threes right now in the NBA. So they're always looking for that three. The issue is, I think at times, the Jazz are better without Rudy Gobert on the floor.
Yeah.
Because they get quicker. Now, the problem is that what you bring in is not better than Rudy Gobert. Right? I mean, Derek Favors, with all due respect, I love
he
the
has
man.
a use, but he's not better.
He can't play 35 minutes a night.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't want him to. He's a guy who can defend a little bit, and if you leave him alone, he's going to dunk on you. That's how the Jazz use him. He's got a bit of a touch on the jumper.
Yeah.
So he has some use. But what happens is they play faster. They play with more speed.
Yeah.
They play with more quick. They play in more space.
They get easier buckets.
Yeah, when Rudy's not on the floor.
And that's my biggest concern for this team, and again, this is something we've talked about pretty consistently. What's going to happen in the postseason when they don't shoot well? Because that is going to happen.
That's going to happen.
That's going to happen. It happens.
We saw
every
that
single
for
year.
3 quarters against Charlotte.
Yeah, where they just didn't shoot well, and then all of a
just not
sudden,
going in the hole.
I mean, weren't they down to Charlotte? Weren't they down at one point
17
by
or something?
Yeah, close to 20.
Yeah.
And then they had to shoot their way back into the game, and they did, and they won the game and everything. So nobody talks about it. But imagine what would happen against a fully healthy Clippers team when you shoot like that and you get behind by 20. You're not coming back on the Clippers like that. I just don't believe that. They're just a superior team.
Yeah.
To Charlotte.
Real quick before we move off of NBA.
Yeah.
Why do the Suns continually have trips down the floor where Book doesn't touch the ball and when the game's on the line? I was watching that last night. I think you even texted me.
Yeah.
I was so frustrated watching them not give the ball to Book.
Everybody talks about how smart Chris Paul is. How does Booker not touch the ball on a possession if you're the Phoenix Suns? How does that happen?
You got me, man.
How does that happen?
You got me. I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm not saying that Book is the best player in the league, but when he's making 3-point shots and getting fouled and then hitting the free throw and he's hot, like, how do you not feed him?
Incredible.
Like, how do you not feed one of the best scorers in the league, man?
And by the way, that was a foul on that last shot. Mm-hmm. They didn't call it.
Well, of course not. It's the last shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. How good do you think LaMelo Ball can be? Seriously.
I think LaMelo Ball has potential to be a borderline Hall of Fame guy at the end of his career. I think that he needs to get stronger. I think he needs to avoid injuries in his career because, again, my biggest concern with him is that he is a slender guy. He is not, like, built out yet. So I think that when his body catches up to the league, he has potential. You would, huh?
Sorry.
Yeah. You know, he has potential to be the best of the best because he's an elite passer. He's got great court vision. And by the way, I don't know if you guys watched him last night, but that confidence is only going up with the jumper. And he was already a confident guy coming into the league.
It is going up. Absolutely,
so
it's going up.
I think he's got that potential in him, but we'll just have to see who he plays with over the course of his career, where he goes. Is he with Charlotte for 10 years or 3 years? Like, it really all depends.
All right. Smash that subscribe button on YouTube, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show on YouTube. Jake, I'm going to throw this ball up to you, and then I'm going to go pee. Should the NBA change the logo from Jerry West to Kobe Bryant? Because Kyrie Irving yesterday said he believes that should happen because the NBA is built by black players. Mm-hmm. Should they make the logo Kobe Bryant?
Well, I think the first thing with the Kobe Bryant conversation is that the death of Kobe changed things, right? The death of Kobe put us all in a position where we felt like we lost somebody. So I think when you ask the question, should we make Kobe Bryant the NBA logo? We should not make Kobe Bryant the NBA logo just because he died and he passed away and we want to continuously honor his legacy. We should not do it for that reason. Now, we should do it more to Kyrie's point, because if you think about it this way. When you think about the NBA, you don't think about Jerry West. You don't think about Bird. Or I don't, right? I think about Kobe. I think about Jordan. I think about Magic Johnson. I think about LeBron James. I think about Kareem. I think about Wilt. I think about all of these guys who made the NBA. And I think it's a fair point. And you know, in a time when race relations in this country is at an all-time high once again, I think it's a very valid point.
But why, if you're the NBA, why are you going to completely change your brand because of public perception? Jerry West has always been the logo. Mm-hmm. Jerry West and his generation, I don't know, are they as imperative or important in the history of the NBA as, you know, Magic and Bird and Michael? Probably not. But they are the reason that Magic, Bird, and Michael got to do what they got to do. There is no question that Jerry West is one of the best players in the history of the NBA. Mm. I just don't see a real reason to do this. I don't see a real reason. Listen, if you're telling me that the NBA needs to honor black culture, I agree with that. Right? Like, you look at the Black History shirts they're wearing.
Yeah.
You look at the community activism. I don't think that's enough. I agree with that. The Black Lives Matter stuff in the bubble on the floor was great.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's enough. I think there's an issue with race equality in front offices. I agree you should go and get that. You should go after that. You should fix that. If you want to broaden the voices of black men in the NBA, I agree with that. But why are you going to change the logo? Like, I just don't. I would have no problem with it, frankly. I'm not offended by it, or it's not like that. I just don't know why you would do that. You don't change your brand over pressure. When you have done, Jerry West has done nothing. Jerry West does not represent racism.
Right.
What is the overwhelming reason to do this?
He doesn't represent racism, but he also doesn't represent equality, and that's the point. It's not about what Jerry West is doing or not doing. It's about the face of the NBA, the logo, everything. You know, everybody knows the NBA logo. It's not a secret. It is the face of the NBA. is a white player from, 50 years ago now? Like, it's not any shade to Jerry West. It almost has nothing to do with Jerry West outside of the fact that he is the logo right now. It's more, to me, with what Kyrie is saying and what the conversation's been in the league, with equality. I think it's more about saying, hey, this league was predominantly built on black stars. Guys who were black players who dominated the league and took the league to where they are. I feel like it is, as much as you want to say that Jerry West is the reason that Michael did his thing, Michael is potentially the greatest player of all time. I mean,
then change the logo to Michael Jordan.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. What I'm saying is that, again, it's like I said, we shouldn't make it Kobe just because Kobe died and we want to honor his legacy.
Right.
We should make it, if it's going to be Kobe, it should be about the fact that Kobe was a black basketball player who came from nothing and became one of the greatest NBA basketball players we've ever seen. If that's what you want the league to be about, which I think is a lot about like what LeBron's work off the floor has been about and like what a lot of these guys are doing, then that's why you would make it Kobe. But it can't just be, Kobe died, so we got to make him the logo. That's not good enough. Like, that just sells him short, in my opinion.
Well, and I also think you sell the black movement short if you believe that creating a logo or making Kobe Bryant the logo signifies equality. Because I don't think that's necessarily the case. Is the league predominantly populated with black players? Yes, it is. Has the league been built, by black players? Partially, absolutely. But who was more important, Magic or Bird? I would say that they were equally as important. You look at the history of this league,
right?
I just don't think that changing the logo accomplishes much. I really don't.
Well, that's a different conversation then. I mean, that I can get down with that. Like, does changing the logo actually make a significant difference? Well, yes or no. It depends who you ask. I agree. I don't think it actually, in reality changes that much. But it's not about, again, like the thing I want to make sure is super clear. It's not about like comparing Magic to Bird. The conversation is not like, did Magic do more for the game than Bird did? The conversation is, hey, the black stars in this game outnumber the white stars like 10-1. I mean, Magic, Michael, Kobe, LeBron, like all these guys that have transcended the game, are way outnumber the white guys, if you will, or white basketball players that transcended the game. Now, there have been a ton of awesome white NBA players. You look at Steve Nash or Larry Bird or, Jason Kidd in his heyday was amazing. Like you look at all these guys, they did great things, but I agree with Kyrie that this league was built on the black basketball player. They transcended the game. They made it what it is today. And he has a case there, but I tend to agree with you that I don't know that means that we got to go changing the logo.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation. By the way, overwhelmingly, because Twitter defines everything and sets social policy, 70% to 30% say do not change the logo.
Twitter's been going crazy.
I just don't know that this accomplishes what I don't know what Kyrie's trying to accomplish. Elevating the stature of the black player in the history of the NBA, I think is important. Absolutely. I mean, and I know that a lot of people have said that black players have made millionaire white owners billionaires. That's not untrue. I mean, that's not untrue. And I think that this is not unique to the NBA. Mm-hmm. If you look at the NFL, if you look at the history of racism and racial abuse in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not unique to the NBA for certain. But the difference with the NBA is deeply seated in the black community.
Yeah.
Through the shoe culture, the hip hop culture, the fashion culture, the influencer culture, LeBron James opening charter schools. That's a great example. Mm-hmm. And if you want to say that, current black players have far more influence than the previous generation of NBA ballers, I would agree with that. Michael Jordan never took a stand on anything.
Right.
Right? You have a guy like LeBron James calling out the president of the United States, but only because Twitter is a powerful medium.
Right.
Right? So that's why that happened. I just don't think changing the logo of the NBA to the silhouette of a black player accomplishes what you're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah.
That's my point. A lot of people are into this. Giggity says, nothing to add to this discussion, but glad I'm back home and able to listen to you guys live again. Giggity, what's up, my man?
What's up, my guy?
It has been too
Good to
long,
have you
Giggity.
back,
Good to hear you. Eric and Raleigh says, Bird walking off with the one finger in the air after the three-point contest should be the logo. I think Larry Bird is a very interesting conversation because if we look at influential players, Magic and Bird absolutely changed the trajectory and the fortunes of the NBA. Why are you sighing?
Because that's not the point. It's not about Bird or it's not about that. It's about the idea that the league, for the most part, the majority of what the NBA has done in its history is black players. That's what it's about. It's not about Bird
in
walking
recent
off.
history.
No, in all of history.
I don't know about that.
Okay, make me an argument that there are more white players in history that have done more for the league than black players. Because I don't think you can make that argument. I just don't think you can.
I think the most important era in the NBA was the Magic and Bird duel. I think that era brought fans to the television. I think Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson started in college and finished in the NBA. It was an absolutely pivotal part of saving the NBA during the 80s was on the 70s, excuse me, was on the brink with players that were drug addicted and lawless. Mm-hmm. There were fights on the floor. I mean, the 70s was not kind to the NBA. Mm-hmm. If Magic and Bird do not emerge and duel the way they dueled, boy, this league's in trouble.
Yeah.
And yes, are there foundational black players? Yes, absolutely. But should we because of recent events, should we forget about what white players did in the NBA? That's not how it works. We should not have to eliminate one thing to prop up another. Just because you want to further the cause of the black player in the NBA does not mean that you have to push down the white player. Did white owners push out black players early in the league's inception? Absolutely. But that's across all racial spectrums, all social, economic spectrums. You name it, that happened in the 40s, 50s, and 60s in this country. It changed in the 70s and really began to, gravitatingly, pull the black man forward in the 80s to a certain extent, especially in the NBA.
Yep.
But if we're changing the logo to one player, it's Michael Jordan. Period. Yeah. And I love Kobe. I covered Kobe. I watched him win championships.
Yeah.
I was 3 feet away when they won their first championship. I was a foot away when he lobbed that ball to Shaq against Portland.
Yeah.
I know that team inside and out. I love Kobe Bryant. But that's honoring Kobe Bryant is for the Lakers. The NBA has given him the All-Star Award.
They've done a lot.
They've done a ton. If you're going to change the logo, which I do not think you should, make it Michael Jordan, not Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, I just think for me, I don't think that the white player in the league has outdone what the black player in the league has done for generations.
But why do we have to outdo what one another has done?
Because when you're talking about the face of the NBA, which is the NBA logo, it is a white player in Jerry West, right? Why is it a white player in Jerry West?
Because Jerry West at the time, I think, fit the bill.
At the time.
When that logo was made.
Yep.
But that is an iconic logo.
Right. I understand it, but that's the point. This is what I'm saying. This is what Kyrie is saying. It is an iconic logo, but it's also 50 years old now. It's also, archaic at this point, almost, So does my kid is never going to watch Jerry West or have any appreciation. Hell, I haven't watched much Jerry West.
You have zero appreciation for, and with all due respect, you're a millennial. This is a millennial issue. I think millennials have a very tough time appreciating what happened before they arrived. Now, I was born in 1973. It was an incredibly pivotal time in the United States. I was coming out of the JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, assassinations, murders, right? The race wars were at their prime. The decade right before I was born. Mm-hmm. A millennial that's born in the 90s You guys have no idea what the 80s were like, what the 70s were like, because nobody's made you focus on that history. And my point is that I think your generation in particular has to work hard to appreciate what came before you. And we've talked about this on a number of subjects. I just don't think that you can say the NBA, well, without black players, the NBA is not here. Well, without white players,
That is a fact.
Hey, I got news for you. Without the white player, the NBA is not here. And I agree that black players have suffered oppression, have been denigrated, have been held back, have had opportunities taken from them. And I agree that I would say from the time that Michael Jordan got in this league, the black player has risen to prominence and has been the building block and the springboard to the future.
That's definitely true. Yeah.
The modern era of the NBA is all about the black player.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. But it is wrong to write off the entire history of the NBA to honor Kobe Bryant.
And that's what you think we're doing by changing the logo?
I do.
Wow.
I do. I think you are largely trying to marginalize an era of NBA basketball that frankly was spectacular. And I agree it was different. I've always said this about the Celtics, and I know that this pisses off C's fans. That's cool that you won 86 championships in a row, but you only did that because there was not, the talent depth was not there. Right? So I agree that the game has changed. The style of the game has changed. Like all of this has changed. That doesn't mean that we don't need to remember or continue to honor those who came before us. And if you're going to change that logo again,
I agree it shouldn't be Kobe. I agree with that. I mean, if you're going to change it, yeah, I agree it should be Michael.
Sean says on YouTube, it's just time for a change. On the Jazz, Wang's 2002 Punks. Okay, that name's tough to say. Wang's.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Says, dumbest talk show. Jazz would not win this much without Gobert. Jazz three-point shooting is very effective because Gobert inside threat. He's not an inside threat.
He's not, dude.
Rudy Gobert is in no way, shape, or form an inside threat other than to dunk the basketball. And the only way that he gets his opportunities is because when you shoot a lot of threes, you usually miss probably 55% of the threes that you take.
Or half.
And he, more than half of the threes you take, you miss.
Yeah.
And you're still elite, by the way, at that number.
Yeah.
His cleanup ability is the thing that makes him effective.
Yeah.
But you look at the best teams that he plays against, or the smaller teams he plays against, he is a 10 and 12 guy.
Yeah.
He's a 10 and 15 guy, 10 points, 15 boards. Absolutely value in that. But I'm telling you, in the last 5 minutes of the game, he has no place. That's why Quinn doesn't play him very much in the last 5 minutes.
Completely agree.
He's not a great free throw shooter.
He's
Teams
a,
foul him.
Yeah, he's a let's intentionally foul him so he'll miss.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not it's not like Rudy Gobert sucks.
No, and that's what I think a lot of people do that. Oh, well, you guys saying he's not valuable in the last 5 minutes. That means you said he sucks. We didn't say that.
Didn't say that.
We're saying that he doesn't have a use in the last 5 minutes because of what teams do against him.
Yeah, Williams says, I listen to you guys every day, and while I disagree with your Jazz takes, I've come around on Rudy Gobert. I agree he is limited in certain situations, and those situations are magnified. I think you meant magnified, not magnificent. Are magnified against elite teams.
Correct.
That's exactly right.
That's a great take.
That's exactly right.
Exactly right.
Those limitations for Rudy Gobert are magnified in the last 5 minutes, especially against teams like the Clippers and Lakers.
In a tight game, that could make all the difference. And that's why in a tight game against an elite team, otherwise known as a playoff series, that's why you're going to see Quinn be really aggressive with taking him out or putting him in, and it's really situational.